Let's talk about travel. So in this video, I want to share with you my top 5 easiest ways to travel for free and even get paid for it. Over my years of travel, I've accumulated so much knowledge and practical insights about how to travel and how to do it for as long as you want. Travel is something that has made my life so much better and just opened up so much for me that I've always wanted to share this kind of stuff, but when I started traveling, social media and YouTube wasn't a thing, and I'm excited now that I don't have to worry about planning where I'm going to go next, that I have the time and the headspace and heart space to share all of this with you. So for each of these 5 jobs, I'm going to go over what you need to qualify for it, the advantages, disadvantages, perks, what they cover, what the company will cover, and when you might have to cover yourself, and just things to look out for when you are pursuing this opportunity. So for all of these 5 things, I'm only going to go over things that I have personally done. I know there are other ways to travel and get paid for it or travel for free, like hacking credit card points or being a flight attendant, but I have never done any of those things, so I want to make sure I cover things that I can practically and honestly speak to, that they work and they're something I would recommend. So the first thing is teaching English. You've probably heard of this one, but you probably haven't heard of teaching English in Europe, which is how I did it, and it was my first time really traveling solo, and it just went to my life and my mind. So requirements for this are that you are a native English speaker. For some of you, that might mean you can't do it. For others of you, you're like, check, that's all you need. Native English speaker and minimum 18 years of age. What you should know is that you have to be okay with working with kids. If you're not, then there are other ways that you can still teach English and travel. Like there's companies where you can do it online now and just teach through a screen. But I did it actually traveling across Italy to teach English. What a company will typically cover when you are being hired to teach English is accommodations and food. This, however, depends on if your company allows you to live with host families, or if they have you living in dorms, or if they're like, just come and figure out how you're going to stay here. I worked with a great company where I got to live with different host family every 2 weeks, so I really got to experience what it was like to live with an Italian family and live in the Italian culture, and I loved it. Teaching English is usually paid. How much you are paid will depend on how long you're there for and the kind of company. So I did it with a seasonal company that just runs English camps in the summer, but there are tons of people who also will teach in China or Korea. They'll stay for a year. You'll be able to make more money as well because you're there for longer, but it's a different experience. If you don't care about getting paid and you just want to teach English and travel, that actually opens up your opportunities even more, because there are tons of even more companies that will hire you and bring you on. The thing is, if you're not getting paid, they'll often ask for you to pay them so that you can teach English, and they take care of the overhead organization. Usually it's to a third world country, somewhere in Africa or South America, or it's just somewhere less developed, so that it's treated more like a nonprofit social good volunteer project. The next thing is to go on a work exchange. These I only discovered towards the end of my travels, and they are the best thing ever. I wish I had known about them sooner. So a work exchange is when you offer your time and skill, usually it's 25 hours a week, in exchange for getting food and accommodation for free. This is usually facilitated through websites like HelpX or Workaway. However, I actually arranged all of my own work exchanges by myself, because if you know how to write a good email, you can kind of sell your skills and what you can offer, then you don't even need those websites. So the requirements to do a work exchange are you just need some kind of skill, and you need to be able-bodied. Like you just need to be healthy and be able to communicate and be flexible and friendly, because you are typically living with the people that you're working with. So if you have a specific skill set, for me, it's things like videography, photography, web design, marketing, that kind of stuff. You can offer it directly to the person that you want to do a work exchange with. But if you just want to get out there and have an experience, then you can literally even just do cooking and cleaning and like yard work for a work exchange. This makes work exchanges really easy to get, especially if you use one of those websites, as long as you're prepared that you're gonna have to adapt and live with people, then it can be a great experience. Work exchanges are also always unpaid, which is why they're called a work exchange. But depending on who you do it with, if you do it with a company as opposed to just doing a work exchange with a family or a one-person business, you can potentially get paid for it if you stay on longer. So I did a work exchange with a place in Hawaii, and if I had wanted to stay on longer, because they had seen that I could add value to what they were doing, they were willing to pay a little bit. So it's not the same, obviously, as working in a full-time job in the city, and it doesn't pay nearly that much, but it gets you to a new location and a brand new experience with lots of awesome people who are also fellow travelers, and that to me is totally worth it. What you should know about work exchanges though is that I have met people who've had not so great experiences, particularly if they're doing it with a family. I have always had great experiences, but I've also done the legwork of making sure I know the people that I'm contacting and that I want to work with them, and I know about the company, and I just do my homework, and I make sure that I pitch my services really well, and I'm pretty clear about what I want to do and how I can contribute. If you're more flexible, then at least still make sure that you have a good feeling about the people that you're working with, because you are going to be living with them and eating with them for a couple of weeks. Work exchanges can be long or short as well. They can be as short as 1 to 2 weeks or as long as 3 weeks or more, depending on what you're doing. However, they are short term. That could be a good thing or bad thing. Because, for example, I have friends who have done a work exchange for 2 to 3 weeks, so that lets them live in a place for a bit, and then they'll travel for another couple weeks, and then do another work exchange, and then travel for another couple weeks. That way you can extend your travels for longer and use more of your budget for different parts of your trip and still get to live and experience a culture. The next thing is to work from your laptop. Nowadays, there are thousands of things that you could do from your laptop and get paid for it. Actually, the work exchanges that I did involved working from my laptop, and the next thing is to work from your laptop. Nowadays, there are thousands of things that you could do from your laptop and get paid for it. Chances are, if you're watching this, you already work on a laptop or a computer of some kind, and you could do the same kind of work remotely. If not full-time, then at least part of the time. First of all, requirements. You do have to be tech savvy, and you have to be willing to figure things out online, on your own, on a computer. Because when you're working from a laptop around the world, you probably won't have coworkers that you can just ask for help. Although there are some really great co-working spaces all around the world in places you wouldn't think of. In order to work from a laptop and travel, you do need to have a steady Wi-Fi connection. This can be really easy to coordinate sometimes, just pop into a coffee shop. Other times it can be quite tricky. It means you have to actually be in a city or a place with a good Wi-Fi, which when you're traveling throughout South America or just lots of parts in the world, Southeast Asia, for example, getting steady Wi-Fi connection is not as simple as it is when you're in a city. The thing with working from your laptop too is that you will have to take care of your own accommodations and food. So for example, you can go on a website like Upwork and find a remote job. If you do web design, you can actually do that remotely anywhere in the world and have clients hire you while you are surfing in Vietnam. However, you will have to deal with accommodations and food on your own, so you do have to be a pretty savvy and experienced traveler. If this is your first time traveling and you're thinking, I'm just going to bring my laptop and figure out how to make money while I'm traveling, know that it will take you a couple of months to get it all sorted out. If you're super extreme, it could take you a couple of weeks, but it will still take time because you'll have to get used to the travel, you have to figure out where to live, you'll just have to get your bearings in your new location, and then you have to find your work and how you're going to get paid for it. So I do have friends who have done it. They started out traveling and now they're able to make money from their laptop traveling, doing services for other people or selling online products, but it does take time to figure it all out. Is working from a laptop paid? Yes, it definitely can be. But chances are you'll have to put in a good number of hours doing work for free before you get paid for it. So by this, I mean, even if someone hires you for a job that you could do remotely, you still have to get your portfolio or get some kind of online profile for yourself up. Even like a LinkedIn profile, you'll have to like appear online in order for other people to find you. So I find with making money from my laptop online, there's always an investment of time and energy that I have to put in order for it to reap fruit. A perk of traveling this way though is that you have total freedom. If you decide that you want to take on a project and you want to stay in one place and work on it for 3 weeks and get paid a ton of money and then not work on any project for 3 months after, you can do that. No one is holding you to a schedule. You don't have to show up to a specific place because when you teach English or if you do a work exchange, you usually have to be there. You can travel as much as you want. It's also great that you can build your portfolio at the same time that you travel because you are building work from your laptop. Whereas if you're teaching English or doing some of the other things, you won't actually build a personal portfolio. If you want to hear more about this, let me know in the comments below. There's a lot more I could say about working from a laptop. But for now, suffice it to say that you can definitely travel for free and get paid for it just by having a laptop. The fourth way to travel for free or make money is to work on a cruise ship. I did a seasonal contract with Princess Cruises and it was really fun. And honestly, if I had discovered working on a cruise ship earlier, I probably would have done it more because it's a great way to make money, save money, meet people all around the world, travel without having to worry about any travel scheduling, and it's really cool to be able to say that you worked on a cruise ship. In order to work on a cruise ship though, you have to be able to offer some skill because you do have to land a job. However, there are lots of jobs on a cruise ship that most people have no idea about. Like if you work in a restaurant, you can automatically work in a cruise ship because you already have that server hosting skill set. I worked on youth staff because I'd already had experience working with kids. If you think of what it takes to run a resort or hotel or a small village, anything that is required to run that is also hired to work on a cruise ship. To survive and thrive on a cruise ship though, you really do have to be a flexible and resilient person because it's one of these things that just like totally encapsulates your life. A lot of the times when I was on the sea, I felt like I was in a floating refrigerator and I couldn't get out. And if you're okay with that, then it can be a great experience. But if you're someone that is emotionally unstable, a cruise ship may not be the place for you because I found that a lot of people do get run down working on a cruise ship because it's long contracts. They're 6-month contracts most of the time, and then people get 2 months off and they come back on for 6 months. That might sound great, but it means you are completely cut off from your normal life during that 6 months. And for a lot of people, over time that wore them down and they weren't as positive or optimistic about their jobs anymore. When you're working on a cruise ship, your accommodations, food, and healthcare are covered, which is great because if you think of how much money you might be spending in rent living in a city, you don't have to worry about any of that and you get to travel all around the world. You'll also be given food. Now, this can be a good thing and a bad thing. The tough thing is that you don't really get to pick what you're going to eat because someone cooks it for you. However, they also cook a lot, so you do kind of get to pick from it, but I found it was a little bit of a struggle because I couldn't eat as much salad or fruits as I wanted, or I felt like I was missing some of the nutrients that my body needed to function. One of the coolest perks of working on a cruise ship though is that you're going to meet people from all around the world. Cruise ships hire from so many nations, and honestly, I probably met more people in a short amount of time working on a cruise ship than any other way. Working on a cruise ship is also paid, which is great because you actually save a lot of expenses because one, you don't have so many places to shop when you're on a cruise. A lot of the people I worked with on the cruise ship talked about how much money they could save compared to, though you might make more money on land, you tend to spend it a lot faster because you're constantly able to spend it. Whereas on a cruise ship, it just kind of accumulates in your bank account. My fifth way to travel is to be an international aid worker. This is a really cool career track where you get to be a part of things that are making a difference, a tangible difference in people's lives, but it is definitely the most emotionally draining and tough. So being an international aid worker spans from being a volunteer with a nonprofit to being a full-time person who works for the UN in Rwanda or some obscure nation. Usually when you work for an aid organization, your accommodations are taken care of, or at least they help you organize it. Same thing with your food and your healthcare. This is because an aid organization is partly responsible for your health and you being okay and you having a good experience so that you'll tell other people about it. To get an international aid job, though, is a little bit more complicated. For one thing, if you want to go right into actually having a job, you will need to apply through an organization. If you're just starting out and you actually are okay traveling for free, then there's more organizations that bring people on in order to volunteer abroad. And similar to teaching English for free, they'll actually expect you to pay for it. So in this case, you're not quite traveling for free, but it can lead to traveling for free if eventually you get paid. Or if you combine all of the options that I just described to you, you can have one trip fund another part of your trip so that you get to do everything that you want while traveling. So I've done a mix of paid and unpaid international aid work. I volunteered in refugee camps on the island of Lesbos, Greece, and that was an incredible experience and something to just be a part of that I'll always remember. And I've also done international aid projects in East Africa, doing social entrepreneurship stuff. That was actually funded by the government in Canada. I landed a couple grants while I was a student in Canada, and that grant money I was able to use to do the work in Africa. So depending on where you live, there's a lot of opportunities to explore. I also did international aid work in East Africa on social entrepreneurship projects. Obviously, when I use the term international aid worker, that is really general, and there's a lot of buckets and types of companies that it fits into. You can even do this kind of work with a for-profit company if you're interested in working abroad. The key is to just start getting yourself out there and figuring out what are the skill sets that you have that you would want to offer someone. Are you more focused on travel? Is getting paid really important to you? And what kind of experience that you want to have? The reason I've done so many different things is because at different points, I just wanted to try different things and see what I could do. So these are my top 5 easiest ways to travel for free or get paid for it. These are some of the easiest ones to land, in that I'm gonna guess that you watching this can at least do one of these jobs already. And then once you're traveling, the doors keep opening and you start learning of more ways to travel, and the possibilities are endless. If you found this video helpful or you have other questions for me that you'd like me to answer, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I share my photography, writing, and behind the scenes of my creative journey. Thank you so much for watching. It's Anita, and I'll see you in the next one.